So yesterday I made a video called "It's Over for Justin Trudeau." Not clickbait, and a lot of people agree, and that's not me saying it's over, although yes, I've said it a bajillion times and it seems like it's finally coming true. So told you so. That's the mainstream media saying it's over. CTV, actually CBC is the one that broke the news. CTV, right? Global News, which we're going to be taking a look at. So it seems like Justin Trudeau is in a tough pickle, no matter how you look at it. Will this lead to Justin Trudeau getting booted from the party or an election being called? We don't really know. In the past, he's been extremely narcissistic, where it's come to the point where he said, "I will not step down," and his right hand, left hand, person behind him, everyone that's really close to him has had his support unequivocally. These 20 or 30 anonymous MPs, they're backbenchers. They are not, it's not Chrystia Freeland, right? It's not Marco Mendicino. It's not the liberal A-team, as you would like to call it, but it also could be. We don't really know. Right now, it's a lot of speculation, but nonetheless, this doesn't bode well for Justin Trudeau or the Liberals. All of this was done while he was overseas, while he was in another country. And it kind of broke the news. It hit the shelves when Justin Trudeau was on his flight back. And while on his flight back, we've discovered that Justin Trudeau doesn't have Wi-Fi on Air Force Canada Goose One, whatever the hell it's called. So Justin Trudeau wasn't aware of this news, hitting the press, hitting social media until he landed somewhere where he could then be informed by, everybody, and his phone likely blowing up and saying, "Hey, yeah, no, they're kind of revolting against you." So we're going to take a look at kind of a little bit more in depth at what's happened and what to expect into the near future, at least through, different professionals' analysis. Welcome back to the channel. Welcome back to another video, everybody. Before we get into it, I do want to encourage y'all to smash the like button and subscribe if you haven't already. It does really help grow the channel. We're close, if not, by the time this goes live, we've just passed 410,000 subscribers. Thank you very much. And if we haven't gotten there, please, let's try and get there sooner than later. I'd like to move on to say 411,000, but nonetheless, let's get into this video. So as of right now, the polls have not updated, but an update should be coming quite soon. For those that have missed it, a recap would be Pierre Poilievre sitting at 228 projected seats, Justin Trudeau at 53, and I'm going to go out and say that again. My prediction is that he's going to fall to 47, 46, maybe even 45 projected seats, which is not good because the Bloc has 42, and it really feels like you're seeing the Liberals at 22% popular vote. They might actually get overtaken by the NDP, which is nuts. And once it gets close or there's a little bit of a lead, that's when Jagmeet is going to strike. He's currently sitting on 18 projected seats, and then still 99% likely across the board for Pierre Poilievre to win the most seats and to win of a majority government. So that's looking good. Now let's kind of take a look at some things that are not looking so good, such as the relationship with the other, not NATO, but the other guys, right? The bad guys, the good guys, depending which way you look at it, I suppose. For us, so they're supposed to be the bad guys. President Putin says 35 countries have confirmed their participation in the upcoming BRICS summit in Russia. That's a little scary. And then China is to issue 2.3 trillion won in special bonds to boost stalling economy. Yep. That's great. So that's not looking suspicious at all. And then you have Justin Trudeau's gun buyback program, and it is falling apart. This is by the CCFR, right? They are on top of everything to do with firearms here in Canada. Trudeau's gun buyback is running out of steam, and it hasn't even left the station. Law-abiding firearm owners don't want to lose their guns. It doesn't go far enough for gun control advocates. And taxpayers don't want the massive bill. And so far to date, it has cost us taxpayers $67 million. And that was as of a few weeks ago, maybe even a month ago. So right now, that number could be over 70 million. Not one single gun has been bought back. That's to set up the infrastructure, the Arrive scam 2.0, but instead of people coming in or leaving the country, it's for guns. And it just seems like this is a massive waste of money. It's a massive waste of time. And let's just move on with another election. Let's get it done. Let's get it out of the way so you can have all of this horrible mismanagement just completely scrapped and we can get back to fixing our country. But let me know down below in the comments what you guys think of this. I don't see how it's controversial at all. Like pretty much across the board, every person that I've talked to with common sense knows and seems to understand that law-abiding gun owners commit less than 1% of gun crime here in Canada. They are not the problem. And when you see the Liberals' talking points on this, they say, you got to go after the guns, you got to go after the criminals. Yeah, law-abiding gun owners are not the criminals. Criminals don't care about laws. Criminals will just steal a car and drive away with it. Should we then ban cars? Like, that doesn't make any sense at all. But again, I'd love to know your guys' opinion. And then we have to talk about the rise in food here at the food banks in Canada. It's just getting out of hand. Like more people than ever have been rushing and relying on food banks. And this is Justin Trudeau's Canada. It's really pathetic.
And elsewhere this Thanksgiving weekend, food banks across the country are seeing an unprecedented surge in demand, adding to an already troubling trend. CTV's Sarah Plowman has the details.
Carrots add nutrition to a Thanksgiving plate, but not everyone can afford that meal. At this food bank, demand has jumped.
If you compare even September of last year versus September of this year, we're up 17%.
The need keeps growing across Canada, like in Mississauga, where nearly 60% more people are using a food bank than last year.
Numbers are moving in the wrong direction as wages don't keep up with the cost of rent or the cost of food.
Volunteers lean in but face mounting challenges. In Owen Sound, the question is, can this be sustained?
We're dipping into reserves now. We're seeing that the numbers keep increasing, the price of food keeps increasing, everything is increasing, and that's our biggest concern right now is how do we sustain these numbers.
Some charity leaders warn demand may one day outpace what they can provide.
We will do our absolute best to help you. But whether or not somebody has food today, whether or not somebody's utilities are turned on today, should not depend on how good a fundraiser I am.
Food Banks Canada wants Ottawa to bring in a groceries and essentials benefit, a top up to the GST HST credit that already targets low and modest income Canadians.
Food banks are there for emergencies. They're meant to be there for people that are in sort of a downturn of need. It's not meant to be the backbone of the social safety net.
At this food bank, the team focuses on innovation to stay as sustainable as they can.
But the reality is we can only do what we do because the community comes along and says, we believe in what you're doing and we're going to support. So it is important to support your food bank at this time.
Besides the year-over-year increase in demand,
some of the biggest abusers of food banks, if I'm not mistaken, in a previous mainstream media video and articles, combination of both, have been immigrants and or asylum seekers. In fact, there have been videos that have circulated of both of those backgrounds bragging on social media, on TikTok, showing, hey, this is how you can get free food in Canada. It's a phenomenal system. And this is just insane. Like our food banks are for people that can't afford to buy food. And for immigrants that can afford, for refugees, people that have sought asylum that can afford, that are on government pay, right? Like some of these pays are like $6,500 a month. $6,500 a month to be a refugee. Like that's insane. So it's really unfortunate that this is happening in Canada.
And more people turn to food banks around holidays like Thanksgiving, but also Christmas. One Christmas hamper program here in Fredericton only opened a few days ago, and already more than 200 families have signed up. Sarah Plowman, CTV News, Fredericton.
Dozens of volunteers are sorting through donations as part of the Daily Bread Food Bank's annual Thanksgiving drive. Some 200 people taking part in today's sort. In the last 6 months, there have been nearly 2 million client visits to Daily Bread Food Banks. The organization is seeing more than 330,000 visits per month. Compare that to before the pandemic, when it saw about 60,000 per month. This year's Thanksgiving drive goal was $4.6 million and 200,000 pounds of food.
We have parents lining up with their kids to come, and it's really what we're trying to do is we can't address all of their food needs, but we try to fill that gap of 2 or 3 days of food.
This is much more than a photo op for any politician. It's an opportunity for them to listen to the people that need food, listen to the people that want everybody to have the food that they need.
Unfortunately, the politicians, they're not listening, right? They, like Justin Trudeau, if he was really, he would honestly, if doing this one thing, I'm not saying people would flock to him and his rise in popularity would soar, but I think that if Justin Trudeau said, all right, you know what, let's get rid of this carbon tax and let's help people to keep more money in their pockets and reduce taxes. Like if Justin Trudeau did something like that, just taxes, got rid of the excess carbon tax and lowered taxes to make life a little bit more affordable for Canadians, I'm telling you, man, that wouldn't change the polls. He wouldn't then somehow miraculously be more likely to win, but I think he would get a bit of a bump and people would be like, all right, I mean, yeah, you did screw us for a very long time, but it's nice of you to do this. Thank you, Sir Lord Justin Trudeau. Like, I think just that one point is enough for people to be not as angry with Trudeau as they currently are. But let me know down in the comments what your reaction would be if that did take place. And then we have this story here where a man was caught with a White Lives Matter sign in Canada and seems to be getting in a bit of trouble.
There are more calls for a man near Goderich to take down his homemade road sign featuring white supremacist language. As Scott Miller reports, the sign's owner has no intention of taking it down voluntarily.
The sign has temporarily moved to a nearby neighbor's lawn, but the message on it remains the same.
Well, it's not a nice sign to see. It is not in the town of Goderich, but it's still in the neighboring municipality. So people are either leaving Goderich or coming into Goderich, and that's something that they're seeing on Highway 21. And, you know, it shouldn't be a reflection of our town, but unfortunately it's being perceived as a reflection of our town.
In early August, Gord Lehman erected this two-sided wooden sign on his lawn, located along Highway 21 just north of Goderich. He recently moved it to his neighbor's lawn, he says, at his neighbor's request. Lehman says he's had plenty of support for his billboard, but not from Matt Hoy or Patrick Corvin.
I would say that it's completely disrespectful for the community. I don't want to see this language on that sign. I don't want young people to see the language on the sign. I certainly don't want my grandchildren to read that. It's completely inappropriate.
In recent weeks, Corvin says he's found several stickers promoting the Great Lakes Active Club along Goderich's boardwalk. The Canadian Anti-Hate Network says the group is a white-only neo-Nazi workout group that allegedly held a meeting in Goderich earlier this summer. Police are looking into the matter. Corvin was hoping Huron County's elected leaders would publicly denounce neo-Nazism in all its forms. Goderich's mayor is one of the first to step forward to condemn acts of hatred.
The majority of the people in our town and in the county of Huron are in support of welcoming newcomers to our area. And that's the proper thing to do.
At Bazinet's urging, Huron County Council asked the Ministry of Transportation in August what, if anything, can be done to remove the sign. But he says the ministry is yet to respond. Huron Bruce MPP Lisa Thompson says she too inquired about the sign.
In tandem with the OPP, it was determined because of the Charter of Rights, Ontarians, Canadians, have the right to express their opinions. And the other reality check is that through the OPP, we learned that the sign is located on private property.
The sign's creator, Gord Lehman, says unless somehow he's ordered to take the sign down, he doesn't plan.
Okay. So unless I'm mistaken, it really feels like the media has been focusing not on the Screw Trudeau, not on the Screw Singh, not even the capitalism, not socialism, but this part in particular, the White Lives Matter. And look, I'm going to have a bit of a vulnerable moment here with my audience and anyone who's watching this video. I've been raised, and up until probably several years ago, I was raised with the belief that that would be extremely offensive because the only sign that should exist is Black Lives Matter because of the movement. And I'm not saying that I support that sign. I'm just I'm seeing these people spin their heads, and if it was a Asian Lives Matter, a Indian Lives Matter sign, I think you'd have this liberal like, oh my God, yes, of course that matters, right? Black lives, of course that matters. And then white, that's neo-Nazism. Look, I'm not defending the sign. I just feel like it's a bit of a hypocritical moment here, and I don't understand how only one version of that sign is okay, unless I'm mistaken. Correct me if I'm wrong. I don't want to come off as an asshole, right? I definitely don't want to do that, but I don't understand the outrage, the public outrage, and the fact that that's in the media. So please correct me down below, or let me know your guys' opinion about that. And then we're talking about Justin Trudeau and his reaction to when he landed off of the plane. Right here, Justin Trudeau at the next Liberal caucus just going, oh, hey, that's what's going on, everybody. What are we doing?
Good evening and thanks for joining us. We begin tonight with renewed and growing calls for Prime Minister Justin Trudeau to resign. It's coming from within his own Liberal caucus in the form of a confidential document. It appears up to 30 Liberal MPs are supporting calls for the PM to go. The reason? The lingering feeling among some that Trudeau has been in power too long and may not be able to win the next election. Mackenzie Gray kicks off our coverage tonight.
The Prime Minister arriving back in Canada to a brewing mutiny. Sources tell Global News there's a coordinated effort by up to 30 members of the Liberal caucus to push Justin Trudeau out as Liberal leader. Some MPs have been approached to sign a document calling for his ouster, but none of them are allowed to take photos or have copies in case the group decides to back down.
While I've been encouraged by
the Prime Minister and his staff learned of the developments, first reported by the Toronto Star, when his plane, which doesn't have Wi-Fi, landed late last night in Hawaii to refuel on his way home from Asia. The Prime Minister didn't speak with the media, but Trade Minister Mary Ng, the only cabinet member on the trip, came out to play defense.
I'm a Liberal MP and I have full confidence in Justin Trudeau as my leader. I would say that I'm disappointed because Canadians expect us to be focusing on Canadians and doing this work.
But many of Mary Ng's colleagues disagree. Trudeau's lost the support of most of his Atlantic caucus and is on the verge of suffering the same fate with his Ontario and Quebec MPs, according to multiple Liberal MPs who spoke to Global News. Now, this isn't the first example of discontent. New Brunswick MP Wayne Long publicly called on Trudeau to quit in June after the party lost a former stronghold in a downtown Toronto by-election. But that call went nowhere, leaving Trudeau confident he could stay on.
We spent the summer out there talking with Canadians, talking with caucus members, talking with the team.
Since then, Trudeau has made...
So he's been going around and saying, I'm going to run. I don't care about the polls. We're doing what's best for Canadians. But it's reached the bottom. In fact, it shattered the bottom, and it's gone so far low that now you have 20 or 30 Liberal MPs that are choosing to remain anonymous, and they're doing this call for action of, trying to get Justin Trudeau to resign with this internal petition. And it's just not a good look. It's not a good look for Justin Trudeau. Not even Jagmeet Singh has had that. Pierre Poilievre certainly hasn't had that. Not even the Bloc has had that. Hell, not even the Green Party has had that. That would be a very awkward petition since they have 2 seats. So if there was one, Elizabeth May could just turn and say, hey, I know it's you. You're literally the only person. But nonetheless, this puts Justin Trudeau in a very, very tricky situation. Now, of course, he thinks that he's built for this. In my previous video, yesterday, I said that Justin Trudeau was raised for this. He was brought up in this system to be a politician. Turns out he's a horrible, horrible politician, and he's breaking all of the wrong records by putting us into the largest deficits we've ever seen, by being the most hated prime minister we've ever seen. And if he goes the distance to an election, whether that happens in the coming weeks, months, or the unfortunate distance of October 2025, he's going to have the worst results of any politician running for re-election, which is phenomenal. But even Justin Trudeau, at some point, whether he logs on to his own social media, goes on YouTube, or just the people around him, it must get to him. I mean, everywhere he goes, especially in Ottawa, whether he's walking into Parliament, whether he's walking downtown Ottawa or across from House of Commons, the question period building to the PBO's office. Like, he's being heckled. Like, everywhere he goes, man. He goes to America. He goes from coast to coast to coast here in Canada. He's met with a force of F Trudeau, a peaceful force of just F Trudeau everywhere he goes. And so even as narcissistic as he is actually human. I know it's crazy to believe that. Even myself, I question that. Like, there's no way this guy is human. Like, he's just such an evil monster, but he is human. And at the end of the day, when he lays down or when he wakes up in the morning and checks his phone, he has to be thinking what most people are thinking. How the hell is he going to survive the next election? It's just not going to happen. And so there's a lot of moving parts. There's a lot of different variables. And unfortunately, they're off for the next week because of the Thanksgiving long weekend. Everyone's gone back. By the way, happy Thanksgiving. If I haven't yet said that, all the politicians have gone back to their constituency, their area, and they do resume back in Parliament the following week. So there's a week and a little bit of leeway to kind of muster over everything that's been going on. But nonetheless, it's just not looking good for Trudeau, no matter how you try to put it. They're going to come back and it's going to be an absolute shit show.
Made no major policy changes, despite multiple Liberals telling Global News the government should take Pierre Poilievre's lead and axe the carbon tax now, saying that if the Conservatives win, that's what will happen anyways. Other Liberals have pushed for Trudeau to remove his longtime Chief of Staff, Katie Telford, as his top advisor. One lifeline for Trudeau, the NDP, who are still open to propping the government up, despite internal Liberal strife.
It seems like the Liberals are focused on their own drama. They're caught up in their own drama. We're going to continue to do what we've always done. We're going to look at every vote and make sure it's in the interest of Canadians.
Mackenzie Gray joins us now. Mackenzie, what does all of this...
It's actually quite likely for Jagmeet to overpass Justin Trudeau in popularity, especially with the fact that he just got this pharmacare bill. Now, the Liberals did try to say, here, Canada, this is our liberal pharmacare plan that we've been working on, just us. We've been working day and night for you guys. But it was the NDP that literally squeezed Trudeau's nuts and was like, nah, no, you're giving this to me or else I'm calling an election. And Trudeau said, yes, sir. And so they're kind of out of options right now. They are very much out of options. And that's adding a lot of pressure to Justin Trudeau. So what does this mean moving forward? What's it going to look like? Well, let's take a look at what CTV and their analysts have to say.
Prime Minister Justin Trudeau is facing mounting pressure from his caucus to step down. A group of backbench MPs is in discussions to formally ask Justin Trudeau to resign. All of this happening this week when Trudeau was out of the country. CTV News has learned MPs asked staff from the Prime Minister's office to leave the caucus meeting on Wednesday to keep the conversations secret. So far, there is no reaction from the Prime Minister, but Trade Minister Mary Ng has come out in support, saying she has her full confidence in Trudeau's leadership. And joining me now is political analyst Laurie Turnbull. Laurie, thanks as always for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Your thoughts on the revolution, the rebellion that's going on within the Liberals right now?
It's not surprising. I mean, this has been, I think, a long time coming. We saw parts of this flare up earlier in the summer when they had the loss in the by-election in Toronto and MPs started to gather a bit and push for some sign from the Prime Minister and the Prime Minister's office that they're taking this seriously. They understand the magnitude of losing a riding like St. Paul's. And I think at the time, the Prime Minister decided he's going to sort of not react too much to this in public. And there's, talk about how he phoned MPs, spoke to them separately so as to try to die down, take the oxygen out of the move to see change. But I think now it's different, right? Like this is months later. There's been another by-election loss. Parliament is a mess. The NDP have left the deal. And so now the MPs, I think, are even more inclined to say, look, where is our plan, right? And who is going to replace Jeremy Broadhurst? What's going to happen? Not surprising at all to see MPs wanting to push on the Prime Minister.
How do you expect the Prime Minister to react to this? Or is he going to stay silent again?
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what he does. Is he going to, I mean, I don't think a telephone campaign is going to do it this time. I think that things are at a whole different level of magnitude. To be perfectly honest, given all of the signs that we see from the prime minister, that it's in his head is like it's business as usual, right? Like he's going on the podcast talking about electoral reform. Like it looks like he doesn't, almost like he's got not a care in the world, right? Like he's just going to keep going, no plans to change anything. And so I'm wondering whether a push from MPs, if it really gets to the point that he has to do something, I don't see him stepping aside because MPs are telling him to. I don't think it matters how many people sign that thing. I think he's more likely to go to election and try his chances with the people than he is to succumb to any of these pressures.
How important is that 10 years to him, do you think, to have that decade as prime minister?
Sure. I mean, like that can sort of be a milestone in somebody's head. That's not uncommon in politics for somebody to say, I want to do this for 10 years and then I'll pass it on. It's also not uncommon for a prime minister or a leader of a party to want to leave on their own terms. And I think what MPs were hoping is that he would do that. They didn't want to be in this position of trying to push him out. They wanted him to do the math himself and to step aside when the time was right for him. That would still give them a chance in the next election. But I think now, they're looking at the math and they're thinking the Conservatives are so far ahead of us. But a lot of people don't necessarily like Pierre Poilievre. There's potentially room for the Liberals to push on Poilievre and the Conservatives' lead because parts of it are soft. But I don't think that's going to change as long as Justin Trudeau is there.
And what does the opposition do with this? Do they just sit and wait and see how this unfolds?
Yes, 100%. When somebody's setting their own house on fire, you don't interrupt, let them do it. And so I think, the opposition parties are not going to say anything about it. They're going to keep on doing what they're doing. And they've got their own positioning that they want to do in advance of the election. Obviously, the NDP is in a whole different space now that they've gotten out of the deal with the Liberals. They're competing with the Liberals for the progressive vote. And meanwhile, the Bloc has a whole new lease on life now that the NDP aren't backing the Liberals all the time. Now Yves Blanchette is in a position where the spotlight is on him and Quebec.
And I personally think that you're not really going to hear anything about this from Pierre until they resume in the House. And even then, I think my own personal opinion is that the most Pierre would say, it's time to call a carbon tax election. Canadians want it. And even your own cabinet wants it, right? It would be something subtle like that. But even then, I think there's just a 50-50 chance of Pierre bringing it up because as that analyst was right, or as that analyst said, she was right in the fact that she had said, when your enemy is sinking their ship, you just let them do that. And even Jagmeet, when questioned by reporters, he said, yeah, the Liberals are just, getting sucked into their own drama. And that's pretty much all anyone else should say. And we should all just watch it happen, sit on the sidelines and go, yeah, that's about time this is happening. But again, I'd love to know your thoughts and comments down below and even your predictions. What do you think Justin Trudeau's response is going to be? Do you think he's even going to acknowledge it? Do you think he's going to do a press conference next week? Do you think he's going to wait till Parliament resumes and 9 days from now, 9 days from now? What do you think is going to happen? Thanks so much for watching. This is the end of the video. If you haven't yet already, I'd like to encourage you guys to smash that like button and subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye for now.